Somehow the Grabber return. Black Phone 2 takes a bigger turn into the supernatural as we follow the main sibling duo to an isolated snowy camp. To be honest, we were pretty lukewarm on the original film, but here's hoping that the sequel's big swings can win us over. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Wow, choice intro, Pete.
That's radical. Those tickets cost a mint.
Yeah.
Lots of
That's
date
how
slang.
people talk back then.
Apparently. That's apparently how people talked in like 1981 or 2 or whatever this is set. It's a few years after the first one, and the last one was 78, so I assume it's like early 80s. But anyway, what are we here to do? We're a horror movie podcast, and we today are going to talk about Black Phone 2, a movie which came out, I think, late September, early October last year. And
Yeah.
we didn't get to it at the time, so it's in our catch-up season here. And, you know, this is an interesting one because we were lukewarm on Black Phone 1, I think is a fair description of how we felt. However, we were much more positive on that than anything else that we've seen from Scott Derrickson. And
Sure.
it's just so funny that since Black Phone 1, he released another movie called The Gorge, which was absolutely horrendous, and I hated that movie with a passion. So I went into this with like, well, he's got more misses than mediocre hits for me. He's never had a hit. I don't like any of his movies. I don't like Sinister. The Day the Earth Stood Still remake is horrendous. You know, so
I always forget he did that one.
I as well, and then obviously he did like Hellraiser 5 or 6 or whatever one he did.
Yeah.
So
Doctor Strange, I love the character, but that was a miss for me.
oh yeah, I forgot he did that. But yeah, I didn't like that either. So, you know, went into this with, well, Black Phone was my, again, quote unquote favorite of his films, as lukewarm as that is. The trailer for this showed some interesting new directions. It wasn't just doing the exact same thing as the first movie. Seems like it was going more supernatural. But of course, we will start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you warning before we get to the spoilers. And of course, if you're enjoying the show, hit us a like button on YouTube. Helps out a bunch if you do. And you can support the show and help keep it coming over at Patreon and get some bonuses. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. Oh, that was so smooth how I went into that, Tim. I'm just enjoying myself here for a second. So
Please enjoy away.
oh well, I don't need permission, but it is appreciated. No, so it's like, okay, let's go a bit more supernatural. I think when I saw the trailer, I went, wait, are they going a bit Freddy Krueger with this? Is that what they're doing with this sequel? So yeah, anyway, Ethan Hawke starring, of course, as the Grabber. The kids from the first one are back. The main, he's feeling himself as well.
What's funny is this is streaming on Peacock now, and I've been seeing commercials for it, and they say Peacock is the home of the Grabber. Like, I don't know if you want to really be too cocky about that.
It's just a weird thing to say. The home of the Grabber. Like, at least if you say, oh, Peacock is the home of Michael Myers, it's like, okay, that's a sentence. That makes sense.
Well, why not be like Peacock, the home for horror or something, and then just show a bunch of like horror stuff, you know?
Yeah. Home for the Grabber. Yeah. Weird. So anyway, yeah. So Finn, the main kid from the last one's back, as is his sister Gwen, and we'll get into what the premise of this one is particular. But let's just say revolves around kind of like some supernatural stuff, connecting to the fact that she is having dreams that seem to be indicating real things that are happening, which was something that was in the first one. Admittedly, I did not remember that plot point from the first one, so it was like a sort of quick wave of like, oh yeah, I vaguely remember her like finding people because of her dreams in the last one, but I'd forgotten that completely beforehand, so I was like, oh yeah, this is a thing. All right. I could have maybe done with a refresher, but oh well, we're here now. It's fine. It kind of roughly came back to me as we went.
There's definitely some movies that, you know, the sequel's coming out. It's like, yeah, maybe I should rewatch the last one, but yeah, not doing it with this one.
No, I wasn't even tempted. But hey, we're here to give it a fair shot. See how it is. I mean, Tim already saw it in October, so he knew how he felt, but that's on him. That's on him for knowing he's going to have to watch it again. So we'll see if that was like something he was dreading for months, or if it's something he was looking forward to for months. Which leads me to a very straightforward question, which is, Tim, how did you feel about Black Phone 2?
That's funny. I forgot the title for a second. I thought you were gonna say the Grabber, and I was like, oh.
Do you think we're gonna do like a Rambo thing where this was going to be called The Grabber Black Phone 2?
It should have. It usually works for most movies. Brahms, The Boy 2 comes to mind, of course.
It does not.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't want to be mean, but like on. Because like you were saying, yeah, the first Black Phone, we weren't really that hot on it, but it's like, well, I guess in the oeuvre of Scott Derrickson, it's probably his best. And I don't know if it's maybe just knowing his like personality or something. Because
hold on. Yeah. You started this by saying, I don't want to be mean, but then 30 seconds later, I mean, I don't know if his personality. You're getting as personal as you can. Like, I just say I don't like his movies. His personality sucks. I think he's a moron.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, on a technical level, I feel like this, and I guess a lot of his movies, like, if they were made by like the exact same script and everything, just made by someone else, I'd probably watch them and be like, I didn't really like it, but whatever. But I don't know, there's something about him. I just think there's like an arrogance or something that kind of shines through with his like filmmaking where, I don't know, I watch it and I'm like, I feel like other movies, I would not like this, but it just kind of wash over me or whatever. But something about his like style just kind of actively annoys me. I don't know if there's like just this air of pretentiousness about it, or like, I don't know if it's because of, I don't know if he's as much of an online guy before, but I knew he used to be like online a lot and really annoying. And I don't know if that kind of bleeds through, but I don't know. There's a lot of this stuff, or I guess in general, when I watch his movies, I just kind of roll my eyes and it's like, oh, come on. And yeah, I don't know, that there's a lot that I feel like that with this movie, which if I'm going to be nice, there's some positive things. Like, I do think it is an interesting choice to shift, to the supernatural. Ethan Hawke, is always, fun to see. And I do think visually, he, Scott Derrickson can do some like cool stuff. Like there are some shots in here that look pretty good. I like the wintry setting, so that leads to like some cool stuff in the snow. But I mean, other than that, I just find the characters to be really annoying. I just don't care about the story. Everything is like so deadly serious. The characters say the dumbest things. I forgot, like in the first one, there's a whole thing where the sister, it's like, oh, like, isn't it so funny that like she says like all these like crazy swear words that's like, and it just like can't be the fact that she swears. It has to be like, oh, she's like mixing these two words together that you would never see. And like, I just find it like feels like so writery, try hard. Like no one really talks like that. It's like, let's make her like have this affectation that's audiences think are so cool and funny. But I find it so annoying. And
to his credit, yeah. I don't want not that I want to defend it too much, but I will say this. Sure. Mm-hmm. I'd forgotten that was a thing in the first movie, and she does it. Like, now that you're saying it, like, I can see a few times in this movie she does it, but she doesn't do it enough that it ever made me remember that this was like a character gimmick from the first movie. So it's at least not that constant.
I mean, that's fair, but yeah, it still just like irked me whenever it popped up. And I don't know, again, I hate to criticize like, child actors and stuff, but I don't think she can really, like, when she is doing some of those lines, that she really sells it that well. I don't really like the stuff they're doing with like Finn in this one, and then there's like this huge chunk of retconning they do that is like so dumb and unnecessary to me that I was just like, come on, movie. So I don't know, like again, if we're talking about the wider Scott Derrickson oeuvre, like I would still say this is one of his better ones for sure, but I don't know, it still has like the same annoyances and things that irk me about his filmmaking in this. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a pleasant watch for me.
All right, there's so much to tackle with my opinion here. Also, I can't believe you're being so mean to Gwen here, played by Madeleine McGraw, when you're such a big fan of her sister, Katie from the Megan franchise.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, I had to. So I was looking at the cast list just as I was starting the movie, to just sort of like remember character names or whatever, and I saw the name McGraw as her last name, and I'm like, wait, is she the same girl as Megan? Because I recognize McGraw. And then I was like, oh no, it's a different first name. And I'm like, they look kind of similar actually. And I just double checked. Oh, they are sisters.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's just funny.
Yeah. To her credit, like maybe it's the material, like because again, I just find the character annoying. So maybe in a different movie she could be a lot better. But yeah, it just doesn't really sell the character for me.
Yeah, I was just it meant that every so often I was thinking, if Katie was here, she'd kick the shit out of the grabber with her Steven Seagal martial arts skills, right?
Yeah, I mean, I believe they're both Blumhouse properties, so that could very much happen at some point.
Oh, the crossover, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so my thoughts on Black Phone 2. I'll say some positives, right? I do have positives, right? I like the setting and the wintry kind of isolation of it, right? I think that's good. I do think the shift to a supernatural thing is a good idea and in parts works well. I like the idea that the dream sequences when the sisters having them are shot like a grainy old movie. I think that's a cool visual choice that I quite like.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think it's overlong, right? It's almost 2 hours long,
yeah.
and I was definitely feeling that in the sort of the middle to back half. I think the goal the characters have, which I don't want to spoil, but the goal they have for the entire back half of the movie, I don't think is a very exciting goal because it just feels like a montage of looking for something, and it just doesn't feel that exciting. I think that they could have done a lot more with the actual horror premise of what the grabber can do now, based on where he is and how he's showing up. And I think that despite all the potential, I think the movie peaks in the middle, and then the entire third act, I was very underwhelmed with how it actually handled all the finale. And honestly, a lot of it takes place on a frozen lake, and to be honest, I did have a problem with how fake it looked the entire time. It had that kind of, we're not actually on a lake, which I don't really expect them to be, but it does kind of have that, we're using like a big green screen room, and we've got like a little bit of fake ice that we're standing on, and the rest of it's just a fake background. And it felt a little disconnected to me the entire time, which is a shame, because I think like the rest of the movie looks pretty good for the most part.
Sure.
I think Scott Derrickson's movies tend to be over-edited for me. I didn't feel that as aggressively here compared to some of his other movies, so I wasn't as annoyed by that. But for me, it was something that started off in okay, I don't hate what this is doing, and I was kind of into some elements of it, and then the back half, it kind of, went down a ridge, went down a slide of sorts. A sled, because it's snowy
A gorge.
and stuff. A gorge, yeah, went down a gorge, never to return.
Yeah, like I wonder if he just maybe needs like better writers or better editors or something, because I do agree, like visually, I think he does have an eye for things, and there's like some style there. So, I don't want to like completely write him off and say like, oh, no,
so just to be clear, Tim, you think any writers on this are trash? Is that what you're saying?
What? What was you gonna bring up someone that wrote something I enjoy?
I might, yeah. So you're saying that any writers on this movie are garbage writers who you now completely renounce?
Well, no, obviously, because it's a process when you
I love how you don't even know who I'm going to bring up yet, and you're already backtracking.
Well, it's him, and it's the guy he always writes with, C. Robert Cargill, right? And then
yeah, but Joe Hill's also credited here. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, he gets like a story by credit because it was based on his original story.
Oh, okay, fair. I didn't remember that. Yeah. I just saw his name on IMDb and thought, oh, it's Stephen King's son. Oh, I'm going to rub this in Tim's face.
I do enjoy Joe Hill, but yeah, I don't know if he had too much to do here. But yeah, I think Scott Derrickson basically always writes with C. Robert Cargill, who I could be getting this wrong, but I believe he was like someone that wrote for like a movie like news website. Maybe it was like Ain't It Cool News or something. And yeah, back when those like were a thing. And I feel like Scott Derrickson just liked the way he talked about his movies, so he basically just hired him to like write his movies with him or something, which I don't know, I find to be kind of annoying. But
it was just the way you paused there when you said he wrote for a movie and then paused and I went, well, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, he writes movies, Tim. That's then you eventually finished the sentence. So oh, okay, I see where you're going with this now.
One thing I do want to say, you brought up the like the dream sequences and they do like the grainy VHS footage. I'm a little mixed on that because in theory, I do think it is a cool idea, but also whenever I watch, I'm like, well, this is just like sinister. Like just has like the same look, and like even the music sounds very like sinister, like to me. Which I don't know. It just kind of feels like, oh, you just kind of like a one trick pony. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it works here because it's the period piece and it's set in like, the first one was the 70s, this one's the early 80s, so it feels like it's kind of looking like a grimy movie that would be playing in theaters around that time, like a kind of. Sure. I like that kind of aesthetic, so I'm willing to give it a pass, but I mean, there's no real great reason for it. It's just like, hey, this distinguishes the dreams from the real world. I mean, what would you have preferred, like a sepia tone or something?
I mean, I don't know. Like maybe I'm just being a little complainy, but it's just like, I don't know. It just feels like, oh, you're just doing like the same thing I've seen you do in other movies. But
hey, I don't want to sound like I'm defending this too much because I was, I was at best whelmed by this, maybe underwhelmed, perhaps. I think there was potential in some ideas and some things that I could have liked once to set them up, but then I don't actually think I enjoyed the execution. Like, because when we get to the point about halfway through or so where it's like, okay, the pieces are on the board, right? We understand what the movie is now. Characters are involved. We have a goal in mind. I was like, okay, there's a lot of potential in this, and then the rest of the movie was pretty dull. And it's such a shame. It's kind of like getting to the point in a Nightmare on Elm Street movie where someone realizes what the rules with Freddy are, and they've got a little team of characters who are all ready to help, and then the rest of it's just kind of like, well, we're literally just going to sit here and stay awake for the last like 40 minutes, kind of. I mean, that's a bit harsh, but like, I'm trying to find a comparison point.
I mean, you do bring up a good point because, yeah, I do think there is potential in. I mean, let's face it, like they're basically turning him into Freddy. Like, he's but
it's close. I mean, there's a couple of slight tweaks to make him different to Freddy, which we'll get into in spoilers. But yeah, it's in the ballpark for sure.
But like, I'm not even totally against that because I love, Nightmare on Elm Street, and
it's Freddy, but he can call the real world. He can call you on a phone and torment you when you're awake as well.
So like, and I do think like the idea of like dreams and stuff is like an interesting landscape that I don't know if it's explored enough. So I'm not against that, but yeah, kind of like you kind of brought it up, but like when you actually sit down and look at it, there's really not much like grabber in this. Like, like they needed at least like one or two more like heavy scenes with him to really like kind of mix it up a little bit.
I mean, yeah, the dream sequences are kind of the only horror movie sequences for the entire first half or so, I would say, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I did notice it. I was kind of like, oh yeah, there's been no real world through it as of yet. Everything's just been kind of like when the sister has a dream, it's kind of creepy, and she's seen some creepy stuff. This movie's got an 18 in the UK, which is a very, very, it's the harshest rating you can get. And most R-rated movies tend to be a 15. I have to assume it's because in the dream sequences you see like children who are like murdered, like who are like bloody or burned or whatever, and that's just like, no, your son's children in danger situations. Sure. That's just an instant, like you have to be 18 to see this now. But I don't have a whole lot of enthusiasm, which is almost a win for Derrickson in a weird way, because I came out of the gorge passionately hating it. Like I wanted to tear it to shreds. I don't have the passion to tear this to shreds. It's because it's not terrible to shreds worthy. It's just not that exciting.
Yeah, I don't know. like again, I don't know. It annoys me, and maybe the fact is that it does have a bit more potential than some other like hacky stuff we watch that is just like, oh yeah, there's like no redeeming qualities to this or whatever. Like I don't know, there are like things here and there where I can see the value in it. Um, and also I think people, I didn't hear a ton of people talking about it, but I think it made bank. Like I think it did like really well.
It didn't do as well as the first one because I actually looked this up just after I watched it. The first one made 160 million worldwide. This one made 130 million worldwide. So it went down a bit from the first one.
And it's still pretty good, I would say, for what's probably not a super high budget
for the type of movie that it is. It probably it probably still warrants a third one if they're thinking about it, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I do agree that there's like more to this than like other stuff that we'd be like, oh, like screw this movie, whatever. But I don't know. just something about it that annoys me. But
yeah, I think even just someone writing the characters a little bit different to make them more likable would have went a long way, right? Because I think both Finn and Gwen like are kind of whatever. There's like a sort of third kid now, teenager, Ernesto, who's kind of a love interest for Gwen. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with him, but he's just kind of bland. Like he's just kind of a nothing factor. He's there, and that's about it.
Well, like actually, like the times when like they're actually like talking about things, and they kind of feel like real teenagers or whatever. And like I thought there was some good stuff, and I kind of liked that. Yeah, Finn's being a little bit of like the overprotective older brother, but it's not like he's not like too harsh, but like there's some stuff there. But then you don't even really get a ton of that because so much of the dialogue is around the story, and it's always like so self-serious and blah blah blah. Like I would have enjoyed some more character moments, and I didn't really like what they're doing with Finn here. Like, do you remember the first movie, how it kind of ends with like 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 the last scene was like him in the classroom or whatever, and I think a girl calls him like Finny or whatever, and he kind of like smiles. He's like, actually, it's Finn. And it was kind of like this happy little like, oh, he's like growing. Like this is a nice happy ending. But then that's like totally done away with here because it's just like we open on him just like beating the shit out of someone.
Yeah, well, this is a classic sequel problem, right? Is that you make a movie that's just a one and done, and then you want to make a sequel, but you have to have your character start off in a worse place so that you can have an arc,
right?
So that you can have them get better over the course of the movie, which in this case means completely just like not. You could say it's ignoring the end of the last one, or you could say it's retconning or whatever, or just, he didn't realize yet the traumatic problems that he's going to have now because he went through this experience. But no, it's a classic sequel problem, is that, we ended the last movie with the characters in a good place. No, cut to sequel. Oh, he's depressed because of everything he went through in the first one, and he's not over anything. He's a wreck, and he's this and he's that. So it's like,
that's like that's pretty standard for like horror movies. Like, you get like the happy ending in the first movie where it's like, oh, like the character's getting away, maybe they'll be all right, and then the next movie opens up with them being in like a mental asylum for 10 years or something.
It's like Home Alone 2 when we start off that movie and Kevin McAllister's got a drinking problem, and he just like he can't deal with the fact that those like he almost got killed by those vicious robbers, and he's got a bloodlust. He wants to get to them, and then he gets to have his chance later in the movie. He gets to try and kill them again.
No. Yeah. So this movie actually does kind of like flirt with doing something interesting that I don't feel like they really explore enough, where like most horror movies, especially like ones that are supernatural or something, like you don't really have like the person being like famous for defeating this monster or whatever, but like in this one it's like, oh no, everyone knows he killed this serial killer. And it's like, okay, that's an interesting thing to explore. Like, how does this affect someone? Like, even if it's like negative or positive, like, some people might be impressed and then others might look at you kind of weird. But again, it's like they mention it like here and there, but they never actually fully explore what that's like.
It's why he's getting into fights at the start of the movie, so it feels like it's going to be a big deal. But then Honestly, it's not. It really becomes a non-factor because they're far removed from like people for most of the movie after that point that it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Which, I mean, maybe people were meaner back then, but like, yeah, I feel like if there was a kid that like survived a serial killer, you know, the thing with kids in school, like they wouldn't be like, I should challenge him to see if he's really as tough as they say. Like, yeah, I feel like most people would kind of treat you with like a little bit more respect, but I mean, maybe that's more today.
I could see it being like isolating, like people like think, oh, I don't want to like say the wrong thing, so I'm going to just stay away from them, and then that would end up feeling really lonely, that everyone's like treating you with kid gloves kind of thing. I could see it like having an effect, but not necessarily on, you're not that tough, I could have killed a serial killer myself.
Actually, you know what movie kind of explored this better? That'd be Terrifier 3. Like that was actually like an interesting, like, oh yeah, like here's how she's dealing with, you know, this.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hey, surprise, surprise! Terrifier 3 is much better than Black Phone 2. Who could have thought it? Yeah. I mean, I have some things that there was potential in that they kind of just whiffed on, and I don't want to say anything yet, but I kind of hate the last like 5 minutes, in particular. It goes for a very, very cheesy kind of thing, which especially sticks out because it has been such a taking itself seriously movie the whole time. If it had been just a little bit more lighthearted throughout with, you know, like characters who were fun to actually be around, I might feel differently about a couple of things it does at the end. But as it is, it just kind of feels like, I don't know, like if you want to be taken so seriously, then you have to actually kind of have more interesting things to happen other than just the cheesy thing that it does at the end. So I don't want to say what it is because spoilers, obviously, but
yeah, I agree. There's very little like fun to be had in this movie, which is okay. It's not like everything has to be like a schlocky, you know, B-level movie or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think it handles like the seriousness like as well. Like, I don't know. It almost feels like he's like making a student film or something where it's like, you know, like when you're like, kind of like first starting out and you're just like, I want to do something that's kind of like dark and shocking and like, oh, this guy that kills kids and then like we're gonna see the ghosts of dead kids and oh my god, like it makes it feel like, oh, this is so cool and messed up, and then in reality it's just like, it just feels like it's like too try hard.
Yeah, a little bit try hard. I think that's a fair thing to say. The sad part is though, is I do think it sort of just starts to touch on really cool stuff, but it just never quite knows what to do with it. And sadly, I think it even just makes it more frustrating in the last half that it doesn't do what I would have wanted with it. So I think we probably want to get into spoilers soon here. I don't know if there's much more to add before we get into the spoilers. I mean, you know, obviously as other cast members, we have Jeremy Davies is back as the dad. You know, and I'd forgotten it was him until he showed up, and I was like, oh yeah, he was the dad in the last one. That's right. Demián Bichir's here as a new character. So that's a thing. There's another.
Is he the counselor guy?
Yeah, he's the one that owns the camp. Yeah.
Okay. Is he in something else? Because he seemed familiar.
Oh yeah, he's been in a few things actually. He's one of those guys that pops up. As far as horror movies, let me check and see if there's anything obvious that stands out that you'd have seen him in. I mean, he was in Hateful Eight, he's in Godzilla vs. Kong, which you might have seen some of those, obviously.
Sure.
He's in the Let the Right One In TV show. There was a TV show for Let the Right One In? What?
Did not know that.
That's just to me. All right. Weird. Oh, he was in the 2019 Grudge movie.
That's where I know him from. How can I forget?
He was also in The Nun.
Of course.
He was in Alien Covenant. He's been in a lot of crap. Let's just be honest here. I like Hateful Eight, but a lot of these other things are crap.
Yeah. I will say I do enjoy him. Like I don't know, he has kind of a soothing voice. Like it's I like hearing him talk.
That's an interesting way to phrase you like an actor. I do enjoy him. I'm just leaving that there. Anyone can do what they want with that. There's another sort of teen character, maybe a little bit older than Finn, called Mustang. She's like someone who's also just sort of like works at the camp.
Pretty much all these camp people are just like wasted. They don't do anything with them.
Yeah, it feels like they could. Like again, there's a bit in the middle where it felt like, oh, we're ramping up into turn this into a proper ensemble, and it never quite does it, which is a shame. But there could have been some interesting elements to that. But all right, we'll get into spoilers then from this point on. Spoilers for Black Phone 2, you have been warned. So let's dive in, shall we? All right,
let's answer the call.
Answer the call.
As the Ghostbusters would say.
As the Ghostbusters. Well, as the 2016 Ghostbusters would say, specifically.
Oh, do you not consider them real Ghostbusters?
Well, no, but that's the one that they tried to rename as Ghostbusters Answer the Call like a year after it came out to try and differentiate it. It was not a comment on the validity of said Ghostbusters. I mean, it was shit, to be clear, but but so was Frozen Empire, and it's not like
Afterlife.
Afterlife wasn't that good either, but it was better than those two.
I really didn't like Afterlife.
I know, I get you. I get why, because it's a nostalgia reboot, like, you know, wankathon. I get it, but it's still more competent than those other two movies around it.
I don't know.
All right. It's fine. We don't have to get into the debate. We don't have to get into it.
We'll do a bonus episode ranking them.
Okay, fine. Anyway, so the movie starts off with a girl going into a phone booth in the snow, and this turns out later to be the phone booth at the camp, right? This public phone booth outside. And
what color was the phone?
I believe it was black.
That's right.
Yes, this is the new phone, right? The new phone, the starring phone of the second Black Phone. Black Phone 2, you might even call it.
Yeah. And fun fact, this was the same phone booth that played the titular phone booth in Phone Booth.
No, it was not. I knew this was going to be something stupid. The second you started off with like a factoid, I was like, this is going to be something silly. I could smell it a mail off, Tim. Right. So we see this girl answer the phone, and she's talking to someone, and we only hear her side of the conversation where she says, "Oh, I'm at this camp. I've been seeing something. And oh, you must be in Colorado because it's the same area code." And is that true? Does the entire state have the same like phone code? Doesn't, because places here have different area codes for much smaller areas.
So, I mean, please note, I am no phone expert, but yeah, area codes are designated by the area.
Whoa! You're blowing me away with this knowledge.
So, yeah, like it would be like, yes, it is like the same area code in general for the same like area you live in, but I mean, obviously, like for bigger states, like they're gonna have multiple area codes. I mean, that was like a plot line for an episode of Seinfeld when Elaine had to get a new phone number, and it was like a different area code. And
well, a lot of people in New York.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I'm from Rhode Island, which is a super small state, so I think in general we all had like the same area code. But yeah, like when you're in bigger places, it's gonna be split up. But this is like, and I feel like there's other examples of this in the movie where you're just over explaining something. Like, you know, you're already setting up this mystery with like this camper and stuff. Like, yeah, I'm not watching it here going like, all right, well, I hope she mentions the, you know, area code. Otherwise, how does she know that they're both, you know what I mean? It just feels like very unnecessary to me.
Yeah. So the thing here is that as soon as she's done it, then she says, "Oh, I have to go." It cuts to the opening titles, and those play out, right? This turns out, I don't want to go through the whole thing in order, so I'm just going to stick to this like thread here. Is that when we start seeing Gwen have her dreams, she has a dream, and she sees this phone. She answers it, or does she answer the one in the basement from the first movie? Either way, she answers a phone, and she's actually on the other end of this phone call. And it turns out that this girl in this scene was their mother in like 1960 something, right? When she was a counselor at this camp. That's why they end up going to the camp. And I was like, okay, this is interesting, because it's setting up this idea that this conversation happened from her mother's side back in the day when she was a teenager, and these like supernatural psychic dream powers have passed down to her daughter, and she's receiving the other end of this call. But that means that in the past there's some timey-wimey stuff going on in a psychic level because she had this conversation with her daughter in the future. And I thought, okay, this is opening a huge, very interesting can of worms. I'm excited to see what they might do with this time element of this movie. Nothing. They do nothing. Like, obviously, yes, like Gwen has like dreams that show where, you know, dead kids back in the day were, you know, like how they were killed and where their bodies were dumped and things like that. She gets like information via the dreams psychically. But I thought, oh, this is kind of a big deal that she kind of talked to her mother without knowing it, and that's going to be a huge thing going forward. And instead of like having like an interesting like way where this happens again, where she kind of now understands, or maybe her mother understands she's talking to her own daughter in the future, which maybe suggests that she always knew that someday things were going to go a certain way because she had some ideas from the future. Or something like that, or maybe there'd be something that Gwen would say which would clue her into the fact, wait, you're in a different time period because like you just referenced something that you couldn't know yet, or something. Instead of that, we just get a cheesy thing at the end where somehow the mum's able to phone her and has a live conversation from beyond the grave. Like her mum's ghost calls her and says, "Oh, I love you, sweetie. Tell your brother I love him too." And I'm like, I hate this ending. I hate it.
By the way, all your friends are here. They say hi. Yeah, I kind of forgot that Scott Derrickson's kind of a Jesus freak, which no shade, you know, it's totally fine if, you know, you're religious, obviously, like that's not a big deal. But yeah, I do find the way he tries to like, you know, shove it into the movie to be kind of cloying, and yeah, the ending especially was just like, oh come on, this is like too much.
It's just like I think he does an okay job of balancing it in the actual movie for the most part, where you've got a couple of people who are ultra religious, and then you've got the characters who are kind of like not, and calling them out on things and like not really taking it seriously. So there's a bit of a balance to an extent.
I didn't really. I mean, fair, but I didn't really like that stuff. It just felt like, I don't know, the overly religious people just felt like too cliche, and then and again it felt like, you know,
there were caricatures for sure. Like I'm not going to say they weren't. No.
And then maybe if they did more with the characters, I wouldn't mind it so much. But it just felt like pretty unnecessary. And then like I don't know, it just felt like they're trying to make, you know, Gwen so cool. Like, you know, the religious lady, like, you know, like quotes some scripture at her, and then like she quotes the scripture back, and it just feels like it's supposed to be like this big mic drop, like oh shit moment, when instead I'm just like, I don't care about this. Like,
yeah, but we also get to hear once again that Americans can't pronounce the word twat, so that's something. Hope YouTube doesn't hate that I said that. Yeah.
Again, that's some of that funny swear words.
I know.
We love so much.
And she does drop a C-bomb elsewhere in the movie, so it's not like she was. It's not like they were holding back on that account. It's like, oh, we have to go with the T word because the C word's too far. So anyway, so I really thought that there was potential in that element of it, of like. I would have much preferred, instead of like, oh, just the dead mom can call her and have a conversation and say she loves her, like knowing she's already dead. That felt really cheesy to me. I would have much preferred something where it happened naturally in the events of the dream overlapping sort of story, where some other dream call overlapped, but this time towards the end, at least one or both of them have the context of, I realize who I'm talking to and I get to say something that we wouldn't otherwise be able to say to each other. It's something that science fiction does sometimes, where one character knows they're talking to their parent in the past, but they don't know that they're talking to their child, but they get to say something meaningful or whatever. It's an overused trope, don't get me wrong, but it feels a bit more natural than just, and the happy ending with the mum's ghost calling to say, oh, I need to go into the light, sweetie, but I want you to know I love you. Like, piss off.
You know, I mean, they could have had like a really cool setup here to like drop some other like horror Easter eggs in here, like maybe she gets a call and it's like like, you gotta help me. My name is Lori, and this guy with a knife and a Halloween mask is like coming after me. And then she's like, "Who's this?" And then hangs up. And then like another one calls, and it's like, you gotta help. There's this leprechaun like coming after me, and like.
I can't believe you went to Leprechaun that quickly. I want you to know Jennifer Aniston looks down on you for liking Leprechaun.
I feel like if well, I shouldn't say if, when I meet her, we'll have a nice discussion about it.
She didn't like say anything mean. She just said, "Good, for the people who like Leprechaun, good for you." But it was a little bit condescending. It was like, yeah, but I think it's shit. Obviously, that was the tone of her voice. I just want that to be clear.
Well, we'll see. We'll get her on the show at some point.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, like, okay, so that was that thing. The other thing with the dreams, though, right? And this is getting into the dream stuff more specifically. So Gwen's having dreams. She sees her mom. She sleepwalks during the dreams, and it leads to the basement from the first movie. She has the phone call and all that, and she's like, "Hey, I talked to someone who was at this camp, this winter camp for kids. We need to go there." And Finn doesn't want to, but ultimately decides to go with her when he doesn't want to leave her on her own with the kind of boyfriend Ernesto, who at this point is taking her there and is willing to go with her. So it's like, okay, they go there, and she has more dreams, and they kind of get into the more Freddy Krueger-y stuff, which is, if something hurts her in the dream, it does seem to hurt her in real life. A kid who's been burned grabs her, and it leaves a burn mark on her arm. She gets a cut in her arm at one point, and these things happen. And the big thing in the middle of the movie, the big sequence that happens, is that, Grabber shows up and straight up chases her like Freddy Krueger. And this scene's in the trailer where he's picking her up in the kitchen, and the characters witness her getting thrown around, and he's trying to throw her in the oven, and they're trying to grab onto her, and they straight up go full Freddy Krueger. I think the one thing that perhaps was going to be interesting here to differentiate from Freddy is that he can actually hurt the others as well, but he can only hurt them when she's asleep. And I'm like, okay, that's like a slightly different mechanic, right? Where it's like she has to stay awake to keep everyone else safe, otherwise he can just start hurting them. But it seems like everyone's safe if she's awake, which is, I think it's an interesting mechanic potentially. But at this point, right, and we do spend a lot of time in these dream sequences. Like I said, there's a lot of like quick cuts to kids who have had their faces like chopped off or floating under the ice, and like, that kind of thing. It gets a little bit like too dream sequency at times, to keep your attention. But once they've set this up, and a lot of them have seen this happen and so on, it turns out that when they're looking at a photo of the camp from when the mum was there, guess who else was there? Young Ethan Hawke was one of the counselors. He was the cook or something. No, actually, I think Demián Bichir's character, he was the cook, but he was there. Did the hockey and the ace fishing or something.
Maintenance guy or something.
Yeah, something like that. And it turns out this is where it all started. This is where he killed his first victims, and the mum was like seeing these visions just like her daughter would eventually see them, and so on. And it's like, okay. And they're like, hey, so do you think if we find the bodies of these 3 kids, that'll take away his power? And she's like, yeah, I think so. And I'm like, why? Why do you think that? Because nothing's told me that necessarily, but go on. If that's where we're going, if that's what the goal is, that's fine. And this was the point of the movie in the middle where I thought to myself, okay, all these characters, some who are kind of religious nuts, some who are a bit more likable, like Mustang, and like Bashir's like been looking for these bodies for years because he's wanted to find them for the parents. I actually thought he was going to say that one of them was his kid at one point because he felt like he was so emotionally invested in it. And I was like, okay, they're all going to come together. They've got a shared goal, and they're going to like be proactive, right? And then all we get, because they're looking in the ice lakes for them, right? The bodies that have been dumped in there, all we get is montages of them sweeping snow and walking on ice. Like nothing interesting is remotely happening because of this goal. It's like, and that's where the movie for me like fell off the cliff, was just like how dull the actual search for these kids were. And it was all just about wait until she falls asleep again so we can get more of like the grabber coming after her and whatever else.
Yeah. Can't really disagree.
On you go. Yes, use your words.
There's like there's definitely way too much of like talking about what they're gonna do instead of just like actually doing it. So yeah, I feel like that scene when they're in the, I don't know if it's like the chapel or whatever, it just feels like it goes like on and on and on. Like there has to be so many revelations where it's like, oh wait a minute, that's oh yeah, that's Wild Bill. Oh wait, Wild Bill was a grabber. Oh, but the grabber died. Wait, you're the kid that killed the grabber. Like it's like I feel like we can speed this up, but I guess in general that's kind of a problem with the movie where it's like there's so much actually talking about stuff and trying to like figure stuff out instead of like, yeah, let's be proactive. And
there's a lot of exposition, and there's a lot of her having to say what happened in her dreams to Finn or other characters. And it's like, we've already seen all this. We know this. You can cut away from them finding out unless it's something we really need to see the reaction to. So, yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
A lot of exposition.
All
right.
Man, oh man.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, this was kind of the main through line of the movie. There's a lot of stuff, obviously, with the, like, when they drive up to this place, where it's like, oh, because of the snowstorm, we're kind of trapped here. No one else has bothered coming, so it's really just you three that have shown up and the people who are normally already here. So, hey, Gwen, you have to stay in the girls' bunk room all by yourself because state law says we can't have, like, underage, like, boys and girls, like, mixed. And I'm like, but one of them is literally her brother. What do you think an orgy is going to happen when her brother is sitting right there with her, but they're really strict about it? But she ends up getting scared after she sleepwalks and goes in and like lies next to her boyfriend or kind of boyfriend anyway. And I have to say, Finn is really chill about this. He just kind of like, he's like okay, I'll let this lie, but stop with the lovey-dovey romantic talk and like almost kissing while I'm lying here, please.
I actually like that moment because yeah, it was a little funny, and then like it was like, oh, okay, this feels like an actual moment, and we're not just getting this over explanation of like, you know, them talking about the situation or whatever. It's like, oh, like you actually, you know, sound like teenagers and stuff, and you're talking about like feelings and everything. So I was like, oh yeah, this is a good bit. Yeah, that having to stay in the bunk by herself, I thought was like so annoying because yeah, you're right. Like one of them is you know, her brother, but then also just explain like, oh no, like she literally needs someone with her because she sleepwalks, and she could walk out and like freeze to death. Like
yeah, because she even says to Mustang, who's shown her the bunks, like, hey, you're not going to stay in here with me, because she clearly doesn't want to be on her own. And she's like, nah, technically I'm not like a licensed like counselor, so I'm not allowed to stay with the it's like, but they're here to be counselors though. They're not one of the kids technically, so that's a bit of a weird. I guess they're still underage technically. They're under 18. I get that, but like, I don't know. It feels like, and sure, it's a Christian camp. They're sticklers for keeping the boys and the girls separate, I suppose. But yeah, they really hammered it home.
It's just one of those things where it doesn't feel like natural to the story in the movie. It just feels like the writer obviously needed a reason for her to be alone. So
I think it's that, but I think the thing that bothers me more about it is that, okay, if you want to set up that they're strict about this, that's fine, but it has to cause more conflict later. It has to be something where they get more strict and sort of like make demands of them because they're misbehaving by like colluding or like being together. And like, even though we understand it's in the context of, oh, she ran in there because they were fighting for their life or something and she needed help or whatever. And then they come in and go, no, you've broken the rules again. We're not going to listen to you anymore. So now you're going to be like, you know, we're going to lock you into your own room. And that, you know, that would create a situation where she's in more danger or something. But nothing ever comes of it because by the time anything else happens, that's when they all see her floating. So at that point, no one gives a shit about the bedroom rules anymore.
Yeah, and it's the it just feels like so, you know, tropey and like I don't know, they don't really feel like characters, and they're so unnecessary. Like yeah, what is the point of any of these like camp characters other than to, you know, deliver some exposition?
I thought, Tim, foolishly, that they were there so we could have some deaths.
Right, yeah. That's the other thing that's funny. It's like, okay, they're going to camp, so this might, you know, there might be like a lot of kids at the camp. We might get a pretty good body count in this movie. And then it's like, oh no, you get there and like all the kids are gone. So it's okay. So I guess no one's really going to die, huh?
No, unless you count the kids that are already dead from like the past, which you do kind of see like, you know, horrific things kind of happen to them. There's actually no deaths in this movie at all. There's none. The body count is 0. I think, unless I'm forgetting someone, but I don't think. I mean, no. I mean, you see how the mum died, I suppose, but again, that's backstory.
Yeah, I guess for a second, I thought that the main camp guy was gonna die, but like when he falls through the ice or whatever, but they end up like coming to him in time.
Yeah. Do you know what? See, if I'd remembered the first movie better, or if I really liked the first movie more than I did, it probably would annoy me that they kind of tie in the mum into the backstory of the grabber. That might annoy me. I don't think I care, because I don't really like the first movie that much, so I'm not really, giving a shit, but...
Yeah. See, I mean, well, I agree that, yeah, it would probably it'd stick out more if we are super fans, but I don't know, I still rolled my eyes at it. Like, to me, there's just, like, such a huge unnecessary retcon. Like, I mean, I don't remember the first one that well, but I'd be surprised if the mom is barely mentioned in it. Like, I'm sure they mentioned her, like, at some point, but I don't feel like she was a big sticking point, to the movie.
I'm sure it's mentioned in context of like why the dad's an alcoholic who's kind of distant from his kids. I'm sure it came up in that capacity, but I don't know how much I genuinely don't remember how much they went into it in the first one. But here, the whole thing is that the mom kept having like dreams, which were visions of the kids that the grabber was kidnapping, and she drove to the location that ended up being the basement where Finn would eventually be held, and the grabber saw her and made it look like a suicide, but like killed her in her own garage. And basically Gwen gets to see all this. She volunteers to get in the van to watch what happened to her mum, and because she sees what the dad says when he finds her, she's able to somewhat prove that she saw this in her dream to convince him that the dreams are, because the dad eventually shows up in like a snowplow to come and rescue his kids, even though he doesn't know they're in mortal danger, but he's like, oh, they're snowed in, I'm going to go, I'll ask my buddy for his plow and I'll go and like get them from this camp, kind of thing. So he shows up eventually.
Which again, it's like, why do you need him for this last act of the movie? Like what does he bring to the table?
He does dive in the water, which I guess is somewhat heroic, but like it does feel like it felt that we're going for something, because her whole thing, once she's seen all what happened to the mom and she ends up waking up, she's like, hey, Finn is just turning into dad. He's instead of getting drunk, he's getting high, but he's just doing the same thing. He's just trying to numb his pain and act like nothing's wrong, and it's causing more problems. And which I actually felt bad for the dad for a second, because like, oh, you're just turning to a piece of shit like dad, and the dad's like, hey, and I'm like, to be fair, he said he's been sober for 3 years, and there's nothing in the movie to suggest that he is like falling off the wagon. Like, it seems like he's making an effort. Right. So
yeah.
Fucking
seems fine.
Bit of a stray to me in the dad's direction, to phrase it that way. But regardless, she confronts him, and he's like, he admits that he's scared and angry and blah 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 blah, and like I'll have to admit, all the stuff with Finn like staring off into the distance, clearly like being angry and scared because of his first movie experience, was just a little bit like, okay, this makes sense. I get why it's happening, but I'm not particularly into any of it.
I agree. Yeah, it's just it didn't do anything for me, and again, we don't really see enough of them to really, I don't know, I feel like justify much of.
I do kind of like, to a point, like I forget that these are the characters we've got for a second. I do actually like that the second movie is the sisters movie. Like, forgetting who they both are. Like, I like the idea of, like, if you're doing a sequel to Black Phone, that you shift it to the other one and it's more her movie than his. I actually like that as a concept on paper, regardless of, like, who the characters actually are and how much we may not like them that much.
Right.
So I kind of appreciate that part of it. But, yeah, the whole thing is, like, she intentionally falls asleep even when she's not supposed to, because she realizes by the end that she has powers in her dream, because it's her dream. She's the one who's giving him power because he's invading her mind. So she's like exploding things, and the whole final big set piece of the movie is that Grabber's like, hurting other people on the ice, like slashing the religious couple and dragging across the ice and stuff. And it's whatever, it's fine. I have to say, for what sounds like an insane idea that sounds good on paper, which is, oh, he's affecting the real world but no one else can see him, it's just, I've seen it done kind of better. Like, it's hard not to think a little bit of the end of It Follows in some ways, of like the invisible force that no one else can see but one person. Kind of similar, but just not done anywhere near as good, and it's in a very sort of green screen looking setting, which is also making it a little bit weaker. I don't know if having the grabber skating around on ice skates is necessarily making him more intimidating per se. Maybe if he was like, I don't know, kicking people with these skates perhaps a bit more, it would feed into it.
I do kind of like it. I don't know, like it's like I thought it was like a decent enough visual.
I would like it in a movie that wasn't as serious, right? See, if you give me like a slasher movie where the villain was like an ice hockey themed villain and he was like skating around and slashing people with these skates, like 10 out of 10, give me it.
We never did curtains on the show, right?
No, we haven't done curtains on the show.
Okay. Yeah, it's I can't say I necessarily love it, so I'm not saying like we should rush to do it, but I mean it might be worth it at some point. But I would say there's a very, very good skating scene in that one.
I think I've seen it, but I don't really remember it, to be honest. But yeah, it's probably worth doing on the show, if not in a regular, but maybe a bonus episode at the very least.
Yeah, bonus episode for sure. Yeah, I think the scene that was kind of going around was a bit of a meme for a bit, at least like horror people. But yeah, the ending is just kind of dull. Like, yeah, like you said before, it looks kind of fake, and they're not really doing anything interesting.
And literally no one dies, so the stakes feel oddly kind of like toothless in a weird way, despite how serious it's been taking itself all movie. Like, everyone makes it out okay.
Yeah. I don't hate the idea of like, oh, the dead kids are like coming up and stopping him, but I feel like that's something I've kind of seen before. It's
a bit cheesy. It feels very, and I don't mean shade on this show, but it's very kind of like Tales from the Crypt. But again, that tended to be a bit more campy in the way it portrayed its stories versus this.
Yeah. And then Finn just goes like super aggro and like grabs him, which is, it's ironic. He's grabbing the grabber. He's just like beating his head.
Who grabs the grabber?
Yeah. That's kind of funny. Like, how do you defeat this guy? Well, you just kind of got to grab him and smash his head in a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, the only interesting thing about it is that he's invisible to Finn. So Finn just sees like some, like on the ice, he sees like the dead kid's arm being like sort of pulled out as if it's been, pulled by the grabber. So he just runs up and just feels for him, and then just finds his head and just starts smashing him into the ice over and over again. So, yes. And funny enough, he leans in and just before he kills him and says, hell's not fire, hell is ice, which oddly is fitting right now to say that. Not in the way the movie means, of course, but just that was a weird, broken clock moment, but on you go.
Sure. Because as we're recording this, there's been some like record-breaking snowstorms and stuff.
That is not what I was talking about, but I was talking about something called ice. That's all I'll say. We can move on.
Okay, you'll have to explain that to me later.
Okay, American.
No, obviously I know what you're saying, but
yeah. Oh yeah, F them. Yeah, seriously. So yeah, I mean, so this is the ending, and she gets the phone call from the mom and gives the hearty goodbye, and then the family go home, and the dad's kind of like, "Hey, that Mustang girl seems quite cute." And he's like, "Shut up, Dad," and they ride off into the snow sunset as it fades to black, and that's the movie. Yeah, honestly, like I think the biggest sins the movie has is the third act just not being that interesting based in that using the premise that it's already built up for me. I feel like there should be more interesting things to do with her being able to fight him in the dream, but that affecting the real world. Because there's a point in the dream where she also starts like kicking things over and it affects the real world. So I'm like, oh, play with that. She can affect the real world too, but it never really does anything with it, to be honest. And it's also overlong, and I felt that runtime, especially during those montages of them like searching the ice. Like that stuff was just like, oh, I just do not like care, about the search.
Yeah. Another thing that annoyed me too is like after everyone sees that big dream sequence, and then like the religious couple are like, oh, like that woman's got the devil in her, and like we're not gonna be part of that demon child, and it's like clearly she was being attacked. Like she's not like summoning demons, or like, you know, she's obviously a victim here. So it was, again, it just felt like, oh, it doesn't seem like something real people would do. It just feels like typical movie tropes.
I mean, I don't know. I think I can believe that some people would just willfully not believe. Like, the way they like don't want to talk about like the fact that some kids were murdered there, like, you know, a decade or 2 decades ago, feels very realistic. Oh, we don't talk about, we're good religious Christians. We don't talk about evil things like that, and we're just going to deny that it ever happened. That actually feels oddly realistic, just based on like people's delusions and ignorance in the real world. So I can buy into that part.
Maybe, but I don't know. It just. It just annoyed me.
What's funny is that you are being the negative one here technically, but I'm the one who's been so cynical that I think, no, some of this is actually believable. So I don't know who's been actually the more negative one overall, but regardless, yeah, that's the thing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't hate the movie. Like it's definitely better than The Gorge. It's better than Sinister. I'll say that, but like. I don't have much more nice things to say about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it also like, I might not care as much. Like, I don't think people are making as much of a fuss about this one as the last one. But that was another thing that made the last one really annoying, because like everyone's talking about it, and there's like so many people like, oh my god, like the best horror movie of the year, so scary, blah blah, and like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, even if you don't like it, like you start to hate it a bit more because it's like permeating the, you know, horror trends or whatever. And then I feel like, I don't know, this one I didn't see as many people talking about, but I feel like, I don't know, it's still a series people tend to like a little bit too much for my taste.
The Rotten Tomatoes score is in the 70s, so it's still fairly positively reviewed. All things considered. However, it does seem very divisive amongst people, and I was seeing a lot of really negative user reviews on both IMDb and whatever else it was, maybe Letterboxd, I don't know. But there are people saying, "Oh, this didn't need to be made. The first one's excellent. This one's not good." And I think some people are just really going to hate the direction it takes. And I kind of get it. I think the direction it takes is the most interesting thing about it. I just don't think it fulfills what it could have done with that direction ultimately.
Well, what's kind of funny about it is, yeah, it does kind of seem like a big deal, like, oh, like they're going supernatural in this one, but then when you kind of stop and think, like, oh wait, well, the first one was supernatural already. It's like the killer wasn't supernatural, but ghosts and stuff still existed. So
that's true. Yeah,
it's actually not that much of a leap.
It's not as big of a turn as maybe some other franchises have taken, but it is definitely still a turn though, and it still feels like, oh, we're doing something a little bit more. You know, we're diving into the supernatural way more in depth, I suppose. But yeah, so needless to say, you know, not that good.
Remember with the first one too? Everyone made such a big deal about the mask. They were like, oh, like I forget, like was it like Stan Winston or Tom Savini or someone like made the mask, and they're like, oh, wait till you see this mask, and like people are fainting in the theaters when they see the mask because it's so scary. And then you see it, and it's like, oh, it's just kind of like a mask.
Yeah, Stan Winston was definitely dead when the first one movie was getting made. Just to point that out.
All right. Was it was like some like big effects guy. It was like Tom Savini or something.
It could have been him. He's definitely.
Oh, Greg Nicotero maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Either of those were alive for sure, but Stan Winston was definitely already dead by the time they were making that movie.
I don't even know. Does he even do like special effects like that, or is he more of a like, you know, like a like electronics guy?
Who?
Like CGI guy, Stan Winston.
No, he was practical. The Stan Winston's a practical effects guy. He did Terminator. He did the practical Jurassic Park effects.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking of him for Jurassic Park, but I couldn't remember if it was like more the practical side or the computer.
No, he was a practical. He was someone who built suits, makeup, prosthetics, that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah. He did step in and redesign the Predator, I think, as well. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, because I think before he came in and redesigned it, I think it was like a much more like bug-looking thing. So yeah, there's a bit of trivia for you.
Cool design, iconic.
Oh, very iconic. He made a few iconic designs, and he didn't make Alien. Of course, that was H.R. Giger, but he did invent the Alien Queen because he did Aliens. So a lot of good Stan Winston stuff out there. All right, Tim, I think all that's left to do is rate the movie out of 10. So what are you giving Black Phone 2?
I I had a lot of negative things to say about it, but I'm not going to deny there's some positive things. Again, I do think, the more supernatural elements of the grabber are interesting, and I like the wintry setting. There's some decent visuals here and there, but that stuff that's good is just really offset by a lot of annoying stuff from the characters, just being overlong, overwritten, not having enough, doesn't necessarily have to have a ton of deaths or anything, but at least have some more action, more dream sequences, have the grabber doing more stuff. There's just some shitty retconning and an annoying saccharine ending, so it's kind of tough because there's some positive stuff, so I don't want to go super low and say it's bottom of the barrel, but I also can't go super high. I don't know, it's maybe a 4 too much. I feel like technically a 4 is where it is. My anger and tone probably make it sound like it's below that, but I think technically a 4, I guess, is where it lands, even though it probably annoys me a bit more than that.
That's fair. You give the first one a 5.5 for the record, for comparison's sake.
Not surprising.
This is surprising. You went too high.
Yeah.
I think I'm going a little higher than you. I think for me, it doesn't live up to the potential it has, but I don't feel angry about this one. I definitely think it's still better than most of Derrickson's other movies. I think for this one, I'm just going to say it's completely down the middle and say a 5 out of 10. There's enough interesting ideas, nice snowy setting, a couple of cool moments or whatever, but not a lot to really go on, all things considered. But just a straight 5 down the middle for me, I think, which is not good. So there you go. That's Black Phone 2, everyone. We were so enthusiastic about talking about it. Hopefully we tried our best to keep it entertaining enough anyway. But next time on the show, you can join us for a Valentine's edition of Streams After Midnight, when we go back to another 2025 movie that we didn't get a chance to do last year. And we specifically waited until February again, because it came out last February, and that is Heart Eyes, because it's a Valentine's themed horror movie. So we will be doing that next week on the show, so join us for that. But otherwise, that is us. That is Screams After Midnight. You can support the show and help us keep the show coming. We're obviously independent. We have no support from anyone else other than people such as yourselves who might want to keep the show alive. You can do that over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV or via YouTube membership, and you get access to bonus episodes, which we try and do most months. There's about 65 or something bonus episodes around now. We also do even more streams discussions, which are anything from 20-minute to 40-minute conversations about certain topics, sometimes related to movies we've reviewed. Sometimes they're more random than that, but those come a few times a month. So if you're interested in getting some bonus stuff, both for this show and the other shows at MailFuzz Movies, you can get that over at Patreon or via YouTube membership. Thanks to everyone who already supports us. Otherwise, subscribe, ding the bell, rate us 5 stars on your podcast app. All that usual stuff helps out as well a bunch if you can't support us financially. And that's everything. That's the show, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.